for action.
Okay, count to 3, and then you have speed.
1, 2, 3, action.
Jamie Lee, I'm so glad to have a chance to talk with you. It's been quite a long while. I think we only talked one other time, actually. But it's good to talk with you on this particular occasion because I think you kids got a great hit with Perfect.
Oh, great. Thanks.
I do.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. I wonder about how you feel about the role of Jessie, and I'll preface it by saying that for me, I think maybe it's the best thing you've ever done. Do you feel?
You know, it's very hard for me to compare work because there are always different people that you're playing. Certain people are going to be identified more by an audience than others. There are certain characters that audiences are going to like more than others. It's very hard for me as an actor to compare work because there's so much that goes into it. The background, how we shot it, the tone on the set, everything is so dependent on each other that it's hard to compare. I certainly like Jessie a lot. I mean, I respect Jessie a lot, and I like what she says very much.
Of course, the whole theme of the picture is journalism and the rights of journalists and do they go too far and so forth. You have one speech that you do so well where you talk with him, really
Thanks.
read him off about hurting other people.
I was very worried. We came up with that because we were talking, and it's when he's really put 2 different people on the blocks and celebrated one and really stomped on another, and it should have been completely reversed. And when she asks him how could he do that, we've tried it in the process like every way possible. We tried it where I was hysterical. We're just crying and like, how could you do that? Then we tried it where I was really angry, like tough. And every grain in between. And what we've come up with is when she just says it to him. And it works the best because it pierces it. Because if you yell at somebody too much, they won't listen. You know, when you hear a loud noise, what do? You know, if somebody clapped their hands right now, I'd go like that. So what you do is you need a bullet. You need a little bullet. And that's what we came up with. And I'm really happy with it, the way that scene was played, because it just goes, It's like, You're mean.
Have you personally been victimized by journalists?
I've been victimized in the sense that there have been articles that have been written about me that I didn't like. But I have not been raked over the coals, so to speak. But I'm very careful. You know, if I sense that something's not right, I'll bring it up to the journalist. I'll say, wait a minute, I sense that you don't like me. So if you tell me why, at least then I can, if I have to defend myself, I can defend my choices. But if you're going in pretending to like me and I can tell you don't like me very much, and then you're going to slam me, that's not fair. So I'll call people. And I'm not afraid to call them at home. I mean, I'll find if somebody slams me, I'll call them up. And I'll say, what was that? Excuse me? What was this thing that you wrote about me? That didn't happen. Why don't you like me? You know, how could you write that? I will do that. I'm not afraid of that.
Have you ever wanted to throw a drink in somebody's face like Carly Simon does?
Yeah, but not to a journalist, to some women who take a second look at my husband. I'd like to do worse things to them, things I cannot say.
I wonder, Jamie Lee, having been brought up in the business through your parents, if you don't have a great advantage in dealing with the press because you could see, or were you not aware of that?
I do have an advantage. That is, you hit the advantage. You know, people assume that I had advantages, you know, thrown at me. That's not true at all. The advantages I have are ones, for instance, the older Hollywood, the first generation of Hollywood, the golden era. They were taught the press was as much a part of a movie as making the movie. Selling a movie is as much a part of making a movie. And so I certainly was brought up around that. You know, the press was allowed into my life as a child. So I've become very comfortable with doing this. A lot of people feel that this is a terrible invasion of privacy, and you get a lot of this. Yes, no. You know, and they don't, you have to get comfortable with this. And this is fine for me. It's not a problem. It's never has been. So that is a big advantage. Absolutely.
The aerobics that you do are just sensational.
Thank you.
But I kept thinking, now I know movie making, you do it take after take after take. How in the world could you do that?
I learned a big lesson on this movie. We did a lot of these sequences. You know, and the hard thing for me is, you know, people have already compared it to Flashdance, and I've said to people, you know what? It's not, because we're doing exercise. It's not a dance sequence. If we wanted to shoot a dance sequence, it would have been spectacular. This is an aerobics class. It doesn't get that interesting. You just sort of go, you know. A lot of the hip rolls are added to get, you know, a little rhythm into it. But, you know, exercise is not necessarily, you know, this big to do. The thing that was so hard was I also would teach the rehearsals. And I learned my lesson. So if I ever have to do anything physical in film again, I will only save it for the camera. Because what I did was I would warm up everybody in the morning, go through all the camera rehearsals, and when it came time to shooting, I was gone. And I had to like pull all of my reserves out. And so it was difficult.
Did you lose a lot of weight during this film?
No, I gained weight because I gained muscle. I got very hefty.
Do you think that that there's too much aerobics in it, or not?
I think that maybe there is, but maybe there isn't. Maybe a little bit, but the music's good. You know, I think that a lot of that has to do with the selling of music. So.
And one thing about it, Jamie Lee, people do keep their eyes riveted to the screen during all that aerobics. So
you certainly, you know, you can pick out different people to watch. They'll surprise you.
Okay. Well, Jamie Lee, it's good to see you again.
It's really nice to see you.
Congratulations on the picture, which
Thank you.
I will say again, I think will be a big hit for all of you.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Got it.
interview. Thank you.
We're going to hold this about a head and shoulders.
Morty, check.
Pardon me? I've got to get rid of the ribs, and that's why I'm trying to stay in tight.
You want me to
See,
close
we're
the
really
curtain?
locked in. No,
No,
that's
this
the whole
is the
point, is
cover.
to keep the curtain open.
Well, speeding and rolling.
Looks great, speeding. And that's about your eye line in between here, actually.
Okay.
Okay, roll tape and action.
Jamie Lee, how do you feel about the role of Jessie? Do you think it's the best thing you've ever done? In doing this role of where you're doing the aerobics over and over, take after take after take, how in the world did you get through that? Did you lose weight during the film? What is your own personal philosophy about dealing with the media? Jamie Lee, do you think that growing up in the business with your parents, that you have an advantage not every actor or actress has as far as dealing with the media? You have one speech where you really tell John Travolta, this journalist, off about writing things and hurting people, and you do it very, very well. Now, what led up to all of that? Okay, let me just... There's a scene where Carly Simon throws a drink at John Travolta. Have you ever wanted to throw a drink in somebody's face? When hurtful things have been written about you, have you had any... What do you do? What do you do when somebody writes something that you don't like?
I shoot them.
Have you ever been victimized by the media? And now just reactions.
Give me one of a little surprise, because on that question about losing weight, you gained it, you looked a little surprised.
That's because of my drawing.
That should do it.
Yippee!